Hello, AWS community. I am Jaymit, AWS serverless developer at Serverless Guru and AWS community builder. Welcome to this session. In this session, I am going to demonstrate how to create AWS Lambda function URL by using Serverless Framework. AWS Lambda function URL is a recently launched new feature by AWS. So we are able to create and attach a function URL for a new or existing Lambda function. And function URL is a recently launched new feature that is provide features like inbuilt HTTP endpoint for Lambda function. So in that case, we are directly able to call a Lambda function without API gateway. So there will be Lambda URL endpoint available. So from client application, we are directly able to call AWS Lambda function URL instead of using API gateway in between. Okay. So in this particular video, I will focus on serverless framework, like how we can create a Lambda function with function URL by using serverless framework. Okay. So first of all, some are the prerequisite for this particular video. Make sure you have installed Node.js first. If you not have already installed, you are able to download it from this particular URL, node.js org/download. So here, from here, you are able to download Node.js. In my I already have installed that. I have a Node.js 14.17.6 already installed, so you need to get it if it is you already not installed that for this particular demo. Second thing, you need to install AWS CLI, that is required for configuring the AWS CLI with credential. So that you can able to that you are able to install it from this AWS CLI getting started document. So from this document, you are easily able to install as per your OS AWS CLI that help you to configure AWS CLI credentials, so you are easily able to deploy resources by using serverless framework. So in my case, I also have AWS CLI installed in my system. I have 2.5.4 version already installed. Next thing is you need to install serverless framework, that is needed for this particular demo. So you are able to install you are able to get this guide from this serverless framework getting started document. So here you can see this command that will help you to install the serverless framework. There are other way also to install according to your OS if you don't want to use npm, but yeah, this way you can install. Here I already mentioned like npm install. Globally you can install serverless framework in your system by using this command. I also have this this command will help you to install serverless framework. I already have installed that. In my case, I have a serverless framework 3.12 version already installed. So in case you did not have that, you can install it by following this step on this document. Okay. So once you have this prerequisite ready, like Node.js, AWS CLI, serverless framework, next step you have to do is like make sure you have AWS CLI configured for infrastructure as a code, like so that serverless framework easily able to up the resources whatever. Serverless framework should have a permission to up the resources in your AWS console by using AWS CLI credential. Okay, so for this particular configuration, AWS configured. So from this document, if you see here in AWS CLI document, install it AWS CLI document. After installing, there is one more document for this. Just a moment. Yeah, so you need to configure this credential. Let me just show you exact that steps. Okay, so main thing is for doing this AWS configure, this particular first step you need to do this AWS configuration, and for that you need to follow these steps from AWS side, like getting started with AWS CLI. So you need to install AWS CLI. After installing, you need to configure the AWS CLI uh, uh, by using AWS config command. Okay, like this AWS config. So first, what you need to do is you need to go to your AWS console, and from IAM section, you need to create new user uh, with the uh, programmatic access for that particular user, and you need to give a role like according to resource you're going to create. You can give that permission, or for demo purpose you can give administration permission. And after creating that new IAM users, you will get a access key and secret key for that particular user. So that you need to give while you are giving this AWS config command. Okay, so what step you need to follow here is first you need to go to the IAM in AWS console, and you need to create the AWS new user, and that user should have a admin or some permission which exactly you want for your resources. But for now, for demo purpose, you can give admin permission, attach policy for administration access, and also you can give a programmatic access, and you can create that user. So you will get the access key and secret key. After that, you need to run this command in your command prompt, AWS configure. So that will ask you these things like access key, secret key, which you get by creating new user in IAM. And you need to also give a default region. Okay, so in my case, I already this setting in my local, so I already have this AWS configured for so what happened, like once you configure this, a serverless framework will have this credential available with the role with the access to your AWS CLI, so that serverless framework able to provision new resources in your account. Okay, by using this credential. So I already have that configured. So that is also kind of one requisite step for this. Now I assume you all have these things ready. And now let me beginning the demo, like how I can create a Lambda function URL in serverless framework. So first of all, I am creating one project. So we have every prerequisite ready, serverless framework also installed. So now let us create one new project. Okay, for this, let me in this path, let me create one new folder, say SLS function URL. Okay, I created a new folder SLS function URL for this project, and I am creating one serverless framework new project in that particular folder. So I am going to SLS function URL, and I am running this command now. This serverless create command will help us to create a new project or new service. We can say serverless create. So here I am using by default AWS Node.js type template, and in I given dot, so it means in current path server SLS function URL, this new folder we created, and in this particular folder it will set up a new serverless framework project. Okay, in with Node.js type template. So let me execute this command. So it is setting up a new project. Okay, so by using this project, we will deploy Lambda function with function URL by using serverless framework. So project setup is successful by using AWS Node.js type template. Okay, so if we let us now use our editor Visual Studio Code, and let us open that particular folder, that particular project here. So I am opening this particular project in my Visual Studio. So after we created this SLS function URL new project with serverless framework by using AWS Node.js type template, it default giving us these files like serverless.yml, handler.js, and one git ignore file. So here this is a main file and this is a handler file for a Lambda function. So it by default it is giving us this serverless.yml file. Okay. So there are many things commented code here as a reference. So now here we will do ISE code in serverless framework for deploying Lambda function with function URL. Okay. So let me start editing this first. So I'm removing all that is not required for now. As for this particular demo, we did not require those old things. So I removing it and just putting it some basic things which we need for this demo. Okay. So let me. So this is a serverless .yml main configuration file for serverless framework for deploying resources like Lambda function and API gateway and many other resources. Okay. So now I'm doing those changes like for deploying server Lambda function with function URL. Okay, so I'm here we giving SLS function URL. This is the service name we given here. We are using 3 version for serverless framework. Provider we are deploying on AWS, that is why we given provider name AWS. The runtime we are using Node.js 14.x for now. Okay, as I having that version in my system. We can also set the region here. I am setting it AP South 1. You can set it accordingly your need. Stage I am setting Dev by default. Okay. And here functions, hello means it will create one new Lambda function with hello. And this is a handler file and hello function inside that. So we have this handler file by default and we have a hello function inside that. Okay. So for now, let me just trim it down, uh, whatever not needed for us demo perspective. Let me update this as well. Lambda function URL call response from Lambda. Okay. Lambda function URL call response from Lambda. This message we are returning from our handler function hello. So for now, let me change this. I'm giving some different name. Lambda function URL API we can say. Okay, same name we are giving to this function, and within this handler also we are giving same name. Okay, so here we have exported this function lambda function URL API, and we have this default code inside that like status code this and body. We are returning this message lambda function URL call response from lambda. Okay. So here we have this lambda and handler file is this, and the lambda function URL API as a functions. Okay, so we that did this changes accordingly. So this code will only create the lambda function. This if we do the serverless deploy for this particular code, it will create one lambda function. Okay, but it will not create the lambda function URL. For creating lambda function URL, we need to use URL property. Okay, so this URL true, this will create a lambda function URL for us when we deploy the lambda. Okay, so let us first deploy lambda function directly without that URL. So for this, let me open terminal here as well. In the command, I'm in VS Code editor. So I am doing serverless deploy for this particular project. So it will create a cloud formation template. Serverless framework, serverless deploy command will help us to deploy the resource in AWS. Okay, so what it will do, like it will create this configuration YML serverless.yml configuration in cloud in the format of cloud formation template. That is why this .serverless folder created, and those file will be deployed to like relevant S3 deployment bucket, and then it will up the cloud formation template, and project will be serverless project will be get deployed. Okay, so initially this will deploy only one Lambda function, but it will not have a function URL created for the same. Okay, but later once it deployed, we will attach Lambda function URL with that. If we give directly, then also it will attach the URL. But for now, I'm just demonstrating the basic Lambda function deployment, and then we will add the URL with that. Okay. So add deployment is going on in AP South 1 region. Okay, so let me open my console. Meanwhile, I'm in AP South 1 region, and let me go to the cloud formation. So here it is creating new stack. Okay, you can see SLS function URL dev, that is stage, and this update in progress. So this tag is in progress and update completed. You can see. So here we can check in our editor. Yeah, so serverless deploy command help us to build the cloud formation template from this serverless.yml configuration, and it will deploy the serverless project. Okay, so and create the resources. It will add the cloud formation template and create the needful resources as per the YML configuration. Okay, so here you can see like SLS function URL deployed to stage dev in the AP South 1 region, and one function is created, Lambda function URL API, and that is the name. This is the name of that Lambda function in our console. Okay, so if we go to here you can see like there are SLS function URL, this new stack is created, and there are these different resources are created. Okay, there are some buckets for a deployment created, then some log group created for Lambda and Lambda function itself. Okay, so these are the different resources created as a part of this cloud formation stack, and we only deployed one Lambda function. So if we go to the Lambda, there should be one function already there. Okay, so here SLS function URL dev Lambda function URI. So this same function name which is we see here, that is auto created due to this serverless deploy command. As per this configuration, we given this function, right? So if we see this Lambda function URL, it will have the same code which is in our handler file here, like Lambda function URL API, and it is returning this Lambda function URL call response from Lambda. Okay, so this same code is which is in our handler.js file, and this so we have a Lambda function deployed by using serverless framework easily in this particular region and particular stage. Okay, with this Node.js 14.x for that Node.js 14.x as we said here. Okay, as per the configuration. So here we have this Lambda function deployed, but if you can see like function URL, there are nothing attached in the function URL. If we go into the configuration, there will be a function URL section, but there is no any function URL assigned to this particular Lambda function add. Okay, this is normal Lambda function deployed. Now let us do changes in our serverless framework serverless.yml main file configuration for updating this Lambda function to add the function URL. Okay, so here we can do some additional configuration in the Lambda level. URL, we can use URL property of serverless framework, and we are putting the URL true. Okay, now we are again deploying this project. I mean we are again doing serverless deploy, so this service will be get deployed, and this Lambda should updated now with the function URL. Okay, this Lambda should now have a function URL, so HTTP endpoint. So we are able to execute Lambda directly by using function URL HTTP endpoint. So this way, this URL true property help us to deploy serverless framework by using we are able to deploy Lambda function with function URL using serverless framework. Okay, so it is again deploying by generating cloud formation step template and deploying process in progress. Okay, so if we again go to the cloud formation stack, yeah, it's done, right? So here update process is completed. If we you can see, right, there are no any function URL so far. And in also configuration in no any function URL, but let us refresh this Lambda function now because our deployment is done. And you can also see, like previously we did not get in previously when did servers deploy, we did not get any endpoint in the response, right? Because we did not enable this function URL configuration in our serverless framework, serverless.yml file. Now we added this URL true for, so we assigned a function URL to our Lambda function, and that is why we get this endpoint in the response. Like this is the endpoint of our Lambda function, okay, that we get in the response along with this function name. Before we get only this function name, but now we get this function name as well as Lambda function URL endpoint, Lambda endpoint. Okay, so if we see here in the console, let me refresh this. So here you can see this function URLs which is we showing this output, that same URL, that same URL present here in the function URL section. Okay, and also if we go to the configuration in the function URL, now that same URL will be shown here, right? So you can see this same function URL is showing here, and auth type is none because we did not given here any auth type in particular this function URL configuration in serverless framework.yml, serverless.yml file. And so this core is also not enabled for now because we only did function URL true. So that is by default creating and assigning a function URL to Lambda function with auth type none. So let us execute this function URL which we get in output. We can copy from here as well as from console, and for testing this I am using Postman tool. Postman is a very good tool for creating API collection as well as testing the APIs, okay, or any endpoints. So I copy this Lambda function endpoint and I am executing that. So I am getting this response from my Lambda function URL call response from Lambda. Okay, so this same message be given in our code level if you see in the handler. Okay, so this same message is coming from a Lambda code. So Lambda function URL call from a response, Lambda function URL call response from a Lambda. Okay, so this message we got. So what happened here, we are able to call Lambda function directly here by using function URL without API gateway. Okay, so that is inbuilt HTTP endpoint running here without any authentication. But if we put here authentication, like say for example, if someone put here authentication, in that case it will try to do private call. So here we have a reference, like in serverless framework documentation we have some references for this particular. So you can see in Lambda section of serverless framework, here we did this particular, like we enable Lambda function URL. If you want to make it authentication by using AWS IAM user, then we are able to do that way, like in this particular URL section we need to add additional things like authorize AWS IAM. So instead of auth type none, we are using auth type AWS IAM. Okay, so in that case this call will be not a public and it will not allow us to get the Lambda response until we provide the signature for the authorization, like until we provide this AWS signature in the call. Okay, so here right now it is giving this response because that is a odd type. Is if you go into console, there is a odd type of our lambda function or configuration. Odd type is none. Okay, let me deploy these changes. I am putting here a new configuration in the function URL, like authorizer AWS IAM, okay, in the serverless framework YML. So let me again deploy this serverless deploy command. So it will again update our lambda function, and that will update this odd type. Okay, you can see that here core is also not enabled for now, and odd type is none. So now we are adding odd type. So after this deployment is done, we should have this function URL or secured with the AWS IAM odd type. Okay, so after that this function should not give us this response. Okay, since it's under deployment, it should done in few minutes. I think already impact started. If we see there, the security token include and the request is invalid, it's saying, right? Because now we have a lambda function URL is secured through IAM authentication, and we are not passing here this AWS signature header. Okay, that is why we start getting this here error here. You can see like our deployment is done, endpoint is this and function is that. So same thing, only if now we can go to the console, if we can see odd type should be now AWS IAM instead of none. Okay, instead of public URL. So let me refresh this again. So I'm going back and again opening that function. Okay, so if we see here in the configuration section, function URL, now we have odd type AWS IAM, so that is secured. Okay, so that is why now we are calling this function, we are not getting response from lambda function, but we are getting this security token include in the request is invalid, which means to that we need to give here AWS signature in the proper way, like we need to give the all the data, access key and secret key, like we need to provide here all data like access key, secret key, and then we need to give AWS region. These are some old data, like for demo perspective I use right now, that is not exist. So what you need to do is for calling this AWS signature things, you need to create one IAM user um, in the AWS console, and then you need to give a programmatic access to that user, and you need to get this access key and secret key of that particular user after creating it, and you need to specify the region for the same as well as service name lambda. Okay, that after you specify this detail in AWS signature, this is we are doing call from Postman. Same way, if you do in code level, you need to do this AWS signature format creation, so it will pass the token accordingly, IAM token accordingly by using AWS signature. So that is why now this call is secured. Okay. Again, let us now go back and make this public. So I'm instead of this, I'm removing this, and I'm putting some other configuration, like we are let us enable course. Okay, so far the course are disabled, so it is not showing core not enabled. Right now, let us in serverless framework, I'm just removing this line, so it will make the URL public and core will be enabled. Okay, course true. So let me again deploy it. So now this course true setting will enable the course as well, and that authentication will become public, because right now it is giving us this message like security things and not allow us to get the execute the lambda and get the lambda response. but now again we are making that public because we remove that authorization line. So this core true will give enable the course as well as make right now we remove that authorization line, so it will make authentication public. Okay, so here we have deployment done. Here you can see that Lambda function is updated. So let me refresh this now. Now we have this auth type again none, and this course should be enabled. Okay, in the function URL section. So here you can see like now we have this function URLs, but auth type is none instead of that AWS IAM auth type. Now we have a course enable, right? So these are the different course default set. But if you want to change specific course like allow origin to make a security, we are only allow specific domain, then we are able to change that as well. So those setting also we are able to do in the serverless YML configuration. We are able to give that specific level as well. Like you can see here, like we are able to allow specific origin only, like this URL only able to call this function or such kind of course level security setting also we are able to do. Okay, so for now I'm not going into that deep, but this way you are able to enable the core and also able to use this different setting for this different setting for you can pass this particular according to your need, like in the core level. But yeah, these are the all different things relevant to function URL. So we covered here how to enable basic function URL, how to enable authorized auth on the particular, and how to enable course, and how to pass specific setting in the course. Okay, so this way you are able to deploy your Lambda functions. So now we have this Lambda function in our console ready. This Lambda function have a function URL attached, as well as auth type is none. Okay, and course also enabled, as we enable that for now, just for a reference. So let me again execute this, and now we should have a response from the Lambda function because we have auth type none, right? So we are getting message Lambda function URL call response from Lambda. Okay, so this way here I show like how we can deploy Lambda function URL by using serverless framework. Same way you are also able to do other resources deployment and many things. So hope you will get the idea on this complete section. Let us clean this. Let us clean up the resources. So this serverless remove command will help you to clean up your cloud formation stack and all this Lambda function which we deployed. Here you can see we have this stack and we have this Lambda function. So that will be get auto cleared by using this serverless remove command. So that was the last step because that is compulsory. Otherwise, resources will be remain as it is. Okay. So this way we learn here how we can create a new project in serverless framework and how we can deploy Lambda with the Lambda function URL with authentication, different authentication type for Lambda function URL, as well as course enable disable. Okay, so now we successfully removed the serverless framework. We have removed that serverless framework resources we provisioned. Okay, so if now we go to cloud formation, if we see that we did not have that stack, right? Also this Lambda function should be cleared over there. So now we did not have any Lambda function here. Okay, so that's it. Like here we completely covered the demo for deploying AWS Lambda function URL by using serverless framework with all the options like authentication, public URL, as well as authenticated function URL, as well as how to enable disable the core. Hope you get a fully idea on this. Please subscribe to my channel and like, share this video with your friends, and hope you are enjoying this kind of technical session on my channel. Please keep subscribing and sharing this video with your friend. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching this.